they? What are they for? What do they do? What do they taste like? Questions we've all wondered at one point or another. I'm gonna be honest with you, I was never a Chao guy. I just didn't see the appeal of raising some weird little blue baby. Plus it seemed to take forever, so I never really touched this part of the game. I mean sure, I would check it out every now and then, but I wasn't one of those weirdos who would spend hundreds of hours raising these things. I was one of the normal people who spent dozens of hours replaying the game regular style. I mean, don't get me wrong, I always wanted to like raising Chao, I just never really did. But I always wondered, what is it about these little monsters that people found so captivating? It kind of bothered me there was this huge part of the game I barely knew anything about. So I decided to finally bite the bullet and learn about Chao. How complicated could it be, right? Oh, it's complicated. So, what are Chao? Well, they're these little creatures first introduced in Sonic Adventure 1. They have some minor relevance to the plot, but who gives a shit? I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the Chao Garden, a feature that was in both adventure games and then never seen again, although Chao themselves continue to make various small appearances throughout the franchise. Basically, the Chao Garden is a kind of virtual simulator where you can raise your Chao by giving it items to improve its stats and change its appearance, and you can enter these Chao in a series of races that get progressively more challenging. There's also a Chao Karate mode exclusive to Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. The Chao Garden is a completely optional feature in both games. However, some emblems are locked behind Chao races, so if you want to 100% either game and get to play that sweet bonus level in Sonic Adventure 2, then you will have to raise some Chao. That's the super basic overview, but where did the idea for Chao come from? Why is it even in the game at all? In the credits for Sonic Adventure 2, they have Chao programmers and artists listed, but there is no Chao section listed in the Sonic Adventure 1 credits. Instead, there's an A-Life section. A-Life, short for Artificial Life, is actually a refinement of an idea they first had for a game called Nights into Dreams, which came out in 1996. This is the game Sonic Team worked on for the Sega Saturn instead of, you know, a Sonic game. It also had a remake come out on PC in 2012. Nights is a game about running around as a boy or girl and then turning into an androgynous purple dream cloud and then flying through rings or something. What Nights is about isn't really important to this video, so don't worry about it. What we're going to be talking about are these guys, little background NPCs of the game. They're called Nightopians, and this is what the original Nights in the Dreams webpage had to say about them. Nightopians are carefree, happy inhabitants of Nightopia. They're born every time balls of light called Idea collide. The sole reason for their existence is to have fun. Because they are incapable of doing anything else, they have no need to work together or to cooperate towards a common goal. As a result, they have no leader and no language. What they do have is the ability to see the consciousness of each visitor, dreaming from our world, through Idea. When visitors arrive, the Nightopians can see their consciousness and recreate the happy world that is hidden deep inside. That's why Nightopians, who don't have the capacity for intelligent thought, can sing, dance, and even go fishing. It's pretty fucking weird, but okay. These odd little cherubs aren't quite as cute as Chao, but they're alright. So what's the deal with these guys? The levels are populated with these little dudes, and they go about doing various different things. They can be happy or sad, they can create tiny changes in the landscape, and certain things like background music are even altered depending on the overall mood of the stage. Much like Chao, you can easily play through the entire game completely ignoring them if you want. But they're actually not just a static background element or whatever, you can interact with them. If you drill dash near one, it will become frightened, lowering its mood. You can even do a paraloop to kill one if you want. Although much like real life, this is considered a social faux pas, and it lowers the mood of every other Nightopian in the level. Depending on the mood of the Nightopian, it will either follow you, remain indifferent, or run away. If you have the patience, you can lure two Nightopians together, and when two Nightopians touch, there's a chance an egg will appear. The happier they are, the more likely they are to breed. After a few playthroughs of the same level, known in the game as days, it will eventually disappear, starting with the oldest ones first. In addition to Nightopians, you can also create Meepians, which are hybrids between the Nightopians and the enemies of the game. You create a Meepian by grabbing a Nightmarin minion and releasing it. As it bounces around the level, if it collides with a Nightopian, there's a chance an egg will be created containing a Meepian. Meepians will have the head, torso, arms, or legs of the enemy type which was used in this creation, so there's a wide variety of possible outcomes. Meepians can also raid with Nightopians and other Meepians to create interesting body part combinations from multiple different enemies. If you have a lot of Meepians in your level and a high overall happiness rating, there's a small chance that King Meepian will appear. also known as a Super PN. The exact mechanics for spawning one are still not fully understood. Some French site says there's a 1 in 4 chance it happens when a Meepian with the head of a minion breeds with a Meepian that has the head of a regular Nighttopian. For a long time it was thought by many to be just an internet rumor before pictures of it eventually surfaced online. To this day there is a shockingly small amount of documentation of this character posted online. So what happens after the King Fiend shows up? Well, most kings go away after a few days, but the king will stick around your level for up to 9 days. He'll fly around at first and survey the area, but eventually he'll begin constructing a little castle that will appear over the course of several days. Eventually he'll leave, but after it's done you'll still have the castle permanently added to the background of your level. Now after all that you might be wondering, what exactly was the point of all of this? What does the castle do? Nothing. It just looks cool. Let's say you want to check the status of your Meepians, see the overall happiness and maybe your Nighttopians to Meepian ratio. Well, the thing is, there's no way to do it with a game by itself. But, if you have the demo disc Christmas Nights, there's an unlockable feature called Nighttopian Collection, which is the only way you can see information about your Nighttopians by looking at your save files from the main game. Christmas Nights is quite a fascinating little oddity. It's a little too much to get into now, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention it contains the first playable appearance of Sonic in a 3D game, predating both Sonic R and Sonic Jam's Museum mode. There's even an inflatable Dr. Robotnik for the boss, but that's for another time. There's a great interview that's been translated over on shmuplations.com about the design philosophy behind the A-Life system at Nights, but it's too long to get into here, so I'll link to it in the description. Anyways, let's get back to talking about Chao. But the first question is, which version of the Chao Garden should you play? There's 2 games, or rather to be more precise, there are 4 distinct iterations of the Chao Garden. There are some features only in Sonic Adventure 1, and there are some features only available in Sonic Adventure 2. And there are some features only available in the Dreamcast games, and there are some features only available in the GameCube games. Hell, technically even these GameCube versions have a few differences from the PC versions, but for the most part these are essentially the same experience. Obviously taking an in-depth look into every single one of these would take too long and be redundant. Luckily, it's pretty widely agreed that Adventure 2 Battle has the most robust and complete Chao system. So for the most part, this video will be focusing on the Chao system from Battle, but I'll bring up the relevant differences between versions when necessary. Before I begin, I just want to say there's no way in 1,000 eons I could have possibly divined all this arcane knowledge on my own. Credit where credit is due, I learned most of what I know from Chao Island, the internet's premier resource on Chao knowledge. So to start raising Chao, first you need to go to the Chao Garden. In Sonic Adventure 1, these are physical locations you visit in the adventure field, although you can teleport between them once they're unlocked. In Sonic Adventure 2, you need to find a Chao container and break it to collect a key, which will transport you to the Chao world upon completing the level. From this point on, you can access the Chao world with this character at any point from the level select screen. So when you first enter the Chao Garden, there will already be 2 eggs waiting for you. When presented with an egg, you have 3 possible options. Wait patiently for the egg to hatch on its own, which takes about 5 minutes, or you can pick it up and shake it gently for a few seconds and then put it down and it should hatch immediately. And of course the proper way, smash that sucker into a wall, although of course they don't like that. Chao can have a number of different facial expressions, and contrary to a popular rumor, the method of hatching doesn't even have any bearing over which expression you get. One of the more striking features of Chao is a little floating ball above their head. This is called their emotion ball, and it can change shape to communicate how they're feeling at the moment. Once your Chao is born, the first thing you should do is take it over to the Chao Kindergarten. Once here, go to the fortune-telling house. Upon arrival, the first thing she says is, "Welcome to the fortune-telling house. You won't get your fortune told here." Seems like you might want to consider a different name then. What she will do is allow you to name your Chao. She'll also suggest a random name. Some of her names are pretty good. Papoose, Quincy, Chaz, Chaggy, Jojo, Bruno, Honey, Dixie, Elvis, Woody, Soul in all caps. Look, proof the game is soulful, guys. Smile B in all caps. This is actually a reference to the Sega Studio Smilebit, the guys who made Jet Set Radio. In fact, I think a bunch of the all-cap names are Sega references. Rosso is a name she can suggest, and that was also the name of a Sega development studio. And HITM refers to Hitmaker, also known as Sega AM3. WoW refers to Sega AM1, formerly known as WoW Entertainment. Nagoshi probably refers to Toshihiro Nagoshi, the CCO of Sega. Another area in the kindergarten you can take your Chao to is the classroom. You can leave your Chow here and they'll be taught a lesson. Either how to play an instrument, how to do a dance, how to exercise, how to sing, or how to draw. You can place up to 4 Chow in the classroom at once. It takes 30 minutes of playing the game outside of the Chow Garden in order to complete the lesson. There are 5 different levels of singing ability, the Chow learning a new song each time it completes a level. Similarly, there are 5 levels of drawing, with the Chow learning a new picture each class. Chow can actually draw without lessons if it wins the crayons as a prize from one of the Chow races. With the crayons, it can draw a Chow and any player character it has a close bond with. If you're kind to a Chow with a specific character, its bond level will increase, and it will become friendly and come towards you when you approach. Whereas if you abuse a Chow, it will grow to hate that character and will run away from them. There's also a black market area in which you can buy various items from a cool shady Chow which will be collected during the main game, but I'll talk more about him later. You can also take your Chow to the health center. If your Chow is feeling sick, the Chow doctor will give them medicine and make them healthy again. There are a number of sicknesses your Chow can get, but none will have any serious lasting effects, and they can all be cured by a trip to the doctor. The doctor will also comment on your Chow. On modern games, you can view the medical chart which displays your stats, but in the Dreamcast versions, the only way to check your stats is with the VMU minigame. You can also view your Chow's record page, which keeps track of their minigame performance, and their personality page, which has information on their personality type as well as age and favorite fruit. Chow personalities are not fully understood. Specifically, it's not known how exactly they affect the Chow's actions and behavior, or whether they're genetic traits or not. Personalities also don't work quite how you'd expect. Even though the Doctor's Honor can only display one personality, a Chow can have up to 3 personality types at a time. A Chow can even have 0 personality types. The Chow personalities are gentle, naughty, energetic, quiet, big eater, chatty, easily bored, curious, carefree, careless, smart, crybaby, lonely, and naive. The last main area of the kindergarten is the principal's room. He just gives a variety of tips. It's some pretty useful information if you know absolutely nothing about Chow. There are 2 different types of trees in the Chow Garden. One grows in the garden and never dies. Other types of trees grow from the seeds that you can buy from the black market. These trees grow and later die. Cool, good to know. Now how do I plant the seeds? How to plant the seeds? Well, that's a secret. Gee, thanks a lot, asshole. Actually, I'm the Chow Doctor. Okay. Wait, what? I saw the Chow Doctor, he's over in the other room, and you're not him. He's got those crazy eyebrows. So why the hell would he say this? Well, as you may suspect, it turns out it's just a simple translation error. The Japanese word hakase can be translated as either doctor in an academic sense, meaning someone with a doctorate, not necessarily a medical doctor, or as professor or expert. So with the actual Chow Doctor one room over, it clearly should have used a different word, but hey, that's far from the only issue with Sonic Adventure 2's translation. Anyways, let's get back to the actual Chow Garden now. Once you get bored of watching your Chow crawl around and flail about in the water, it's time to start raising their stats. You do this by playing through the stages and defeating enemies, collecting animals, and in Sonic Adventure 2, Chaos Drives, and then giving them to your Chow. The 4 main stats are swim, fly, run, and power. These are all fairly self-explanatory. Your Chow starts off crawling, but after 50 points in run, he can start walking. The higher the stat, the faster he goes. Once your Chow reaches 100 points in swimming, it'll stop splashing helplessly and begin to actually swim. For flying, well, they don't really fly exactly, but the fly stat determines their speed and distance traveled after jumping off a big ledge. Power is probably the least obvious, but it affects both the Chow's climbing speed and how fast they can shake the nut down from the tree, as well as how fast they can push the beach ball in Sonic Adventure 1. The 5th stat, Stamina, is a little different from the first 4. It doesn't affect the Chow's appearance or evolution at all, and it's not raised through animals or drives. You have to feed the Chow fruit that grows from the trees in the garden, or items bought directly from the black market with rings. It is nonetheless quite an important stat. There's a stamina bar that slowly drains while a Chow is racing, and you have the option to cheer the Chow on for an additional speed boost at the cost of using some stamina. Once the Chow runs out, it will begin to move extremely slowly, so efficient use of stamina is crucial. However, there are actually 2 more hidden stats, Intelligence and Luck. Intelligence increases the speed and accuracy they complete the puzzle portion of the race, as well as increasing the speed at which they open the Jack-in-the-Box. All animals and drives increase intelligence a small amount. A higher luck stat decreases both the chance for your Chow to trip and the odds they'll get scared by the Jack-in-the-Box. It's also believed to increase their chances of picking a route that avoids traps during the ending area of the Diamond and Onyx courses. The stat is also raised slightly by all animals in Drive, but Chaos Drives increase it twice as much as animals. The mushroom item from the black market also increases luck. If I had to rank the stats in terms of importance, it would probably be in this order. Running is always useful. Nearly every single race has a considerable amount of traditional running on land. Stamina is also incredibly helpful, allowing you both speed boosts onto the end as well as simply being necessary to complete the longer races. Swimming is probably the next most important. There's a considerable amount of swimming sections in the races. More swimming than flying or climbing, that's for sure. A good swim stat can help compensate a lot, assuming the race has a water section, of course. Similarly, there aren't that many flying sections, but when they do happen, they can be a great opportunity to get ahead. Power, I just really can't say is terribly important, at least for racing. But there are a few power-oriented races, so it's not like you can or should completely neglect it. Luck and intelligence are both fine, but I mean, you can't see them in-game, but there's not really much you can do to go out of your way to specifically focus on them. I guess luck is a little more important since you're always at risk of tripping when you're running, and very, very annoying when you lose a race you otherwise would have won because of it. Whereas intelligence only affects two very specific puzzles which aren't even in most races. Okay, so now that you understand what the stats are, let's talk about how to raise them. As stated, you need to bring the Chao an animal or Chaos Drive. Let's start with the Chaos Drives because they're simpler. These drop from the gun robots in Sonic Adventure 2, opposed to Eggman's robots which drop little animals and a nice little piece of lore consistency. There are 4 different colors, each one correlating to one of the 4 main stats. The color drives drop when you destroy an enemy is random. In the Dreamcast games, giving a Chao a drive or animal would directly increase its stat a set amount. In the later games, it doesn't quite work that way. Giving a drive or animal to a Chao will not directly raise its stat number. Instead, it increases the Chao's progress bar. Once you fill up a Chao's progress bar, it will level up, and the stat will increase a random amount determined by its stat grade. Chaos Drives increase the progress bar 24%. The progress bar is actually a percentage-based system, but the game displays it as 10 little rectangles, which round to the nearest 10%. For example, anything between 15% and 24% would just show up as 2 filled squares. It should be noted that this helpful little stat window that pops up when you pick up a Chao was introduced in Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. For the Dreamcast games, the only way to see their stats was with the VMU. So as stated earlier, they're not like Tamagotchis in the sense you have to feed them for them to survive. The fruit is simply for raising stamina. Technically, you could have a Chao for its entire lifespan and never feed it once, but you wouldn't be very happy about it. Plus, they'll eat on their own if you leave fruit near them. But they're not going to die from you forgetting to feed them or anything like that. In fact, the only way for these guys to die is simply old age. Yep, doesn't matter how much you starve these guys, kick them around, smash them into walls, dump them into the dirt. I could bash these guys all day long and they never die. Yep, all day long. Well, actually, there's something kind of interesting about the Dreamcast version of Sonic Adventure 1. You see, it's the only game that has a different stat system than the one I described earlier. There's no intelligence, luck, or even stamina stat. Instead, there's simply the 4 main stats and another stat called HP. Unlike these games, your attacks do decrease this stat. And when this stat reaches 0, the Chao dies. So, you do know what this means, right? Alright, so step 1 is you're going to want to crack that sucker open like you're making an omelet. You can do a short hop throw here to save a few frames if you want. The next thing you're going to want to do is back that little sucker up into a corner and go to town with the spin dash. I mean, really nail the little bastard. But remember, it's not about spamming it as fast as you can. It's about consistency and rhythm, hitting him as soon as he's vulnerable again. Now he's going to want to try and crawl away to avoid being killed by you, but just keep on top of him with that spin dash and make sure you keep track of where he is with the camera, because he can go flying all over the place. Ooh, we don't like that. If you're having trouble keeping control of your spin dash, you can always try picking him up and throwing him, although this method is slightly slower. And there you go, that's my Chao Murder % Run tutorial. I'm currently the only runner in this category, but I hope to inspire others to take up the challenge with this video. I understand that some people really don't like seeing Chao abuse. If you found the footage of me violently murdering that innocent baby Chao as a joke to be offensive, then you can jump to the following time to skip it. Hey, don't get mad at me for telling you about it. Get mad at Sonic Team for putting it in the game. And yes, I understand the real Chao Murder % category would probably have to be timed from the start of the game. This is more of a proof of concept than a real run. Alright, enough digital and fantaside. Let's discuss the Chao life cycle in a little more depth. Each Chao is born from their egg, lives in a child phase for about 1 Chao year, which is 3 hours and 12 minutes long, assuming your game is running at 60 FPS. Then enters a cocoon and evolves into an adult Chao. We'll talk more about this evolution in a minute. For now, let's take a look at Chao death. A chow's life lasts for about 5 years, after which it will enter a second cocoon. If you're neglectful or abusive to your chow, it will actually die, disappearing forever. However, if it had a high enough happiness stat, it will instead enter a pink cocoon and reincarnate as an egg. Luckily, happiness is pretty easy to raise, so this isn't really that difficult to achieve. Just give them a lengthy head massage. Back in the Dreamcast era, all cocoons were the same color, so it was a little more suspenseful. Now you know what's going to happen as soon as the cocoon forms. Upon reincarnating, your chow will keep the same name and 10% of their total stats. Interestingly, a chow from a new egg will be born at level 0, but a reincarnated chow will hatch at level 1. So what's the deal with the first cocoon? Well, once a chow has reached a certain age, it's ready to transform into an adult chow. There are 5 different types of adult chow: swim, fly, run, power, and normal. In addition to changing appearance, when a chow evolves, its stat grade and the corresponding stat will increase 1 letter rank, unless it's already the maximum rank of S. If your chow evolves into the normal type, its stamina grade will increase. During this first evolution is the only time a chow can ever increase its stat grade. So if you want your chow to have all S ranks, you're going to have to go through the laborious process of raising it, evolving it, and having it die and reincarnate over and over again. Which is why the more common method of getting a chow with all S ranks is by breeding, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. So what determines which evolution the chow will undergo? I mean, it's just whichever stat it types, right? Well, no, it's not that simple. It has to do with your chow's stat influence, which is independent from its level and actual stat number. It's essentially just 2 sliders, the run power slider and the swim fly slider, which can be represented as a graph. You see, these stat types are diametrically opposed. As you give your chow run drives to animals, its power influence decreases, and vice versa. Same goes for swimming and flying. If you give your chow 1,000 green drives to make him a little speed demon, then 80 red drives, it will evolve into a power type, despite run being a much higher stat, as that's the stat with the highest influence at the time of evolution. If you want your chow to evolve into a normal type, then you have to balance it so none of the 4 stats have too much influence. It takes about 20 animals or 40 chaos drives to max the stat influence out from the neutral position. But what if the influence values are exactly the same? In the case where the swim, fly, and the run power sliders have equal absolute values, which can easily happen if you max out both influence stats, then we have to take a look at stat dominance to determine what the evolution's outcome will be. The hierarchy goes swim, power or run, and then flying. Stat influence continues to play a role in the life of an adult chow. You can continue to further affect the appearance of the adult chow by giving them animals and drives. This is informally known as the second evolution. There's no cocoon for this evolution, it merely refers to the natural growth of an adult chow over time as it receives stat influence. This is the Chow Island 3D Chow Viewer. It's a program written by Justin113D, and while not absolutely 100% game accurate, it's very, very close and an incredibly useful tool if you want to design a chow. I love messing around with this program, but I just want to use it here to demonstrate the effects that stat influence can have on a chow. Something interesting is that stat influence does not immediately have any effect on an adult chow. Like if you immediately shove 100 chaos drives in his face the second he emerges from his first evolution, he won't immediately change shape. It's only as time passes that you begin to see the effects. Even if you don't give them any drives or animals, adult chow will still change over time. Although the effect can be quite subtle as seen in the normal chow. For example, this is a newly evolved run chow. So as the running chow gets older, he begins to turn more blue, and his little head nubbins come up to form ears. It's clear this is obviously becoming a little Sonic chow. That's cute. It doesn't make sense that the run chow would look like Sonic. If we were to continue giving it lots of run drives and animals and max out its stat influence in it, you'll see that it becomes even bluer and more Sonic-like. This is what the second evolution refers to, so this would be called a run chow. But unlike the first evolution, this is not a permanent change. If you were to then max him out on power via drives, his appearance would change to this, and he would be known as a run power chow. Again, the further into an adult chow's lifespan, the more prominently the effects of stat influence are displayed. Another cute little detail is the fly type chow looks similar to knights, and indeed if you make a fly type chow, it makes the effect even more pronounced. Anyways, I know it might seem like I'm over-explaining this a tad bit, I just want to make it very clear how many different possible ways you can get your chow to look. It's very customizable and easy to make a fairly unique looking chow. Speaking of customizing your chow, it's finally time to talk about animals. Animals are the other thing you can give your chow to boost their stats besides Chaos Drives, and indeed animals came first, as the drives weren't introduced until Sonic Adventure 2. It's always been a serious tradition to have little animals inside Eggman's robots that pop out when Sonic destroys them. And it's kind of nice they progressed this aspect of the series by giving them an actual gameplay use now. The reason I chose to talk about Chaos Drives first is I wanted to keep things simple when explaining stats and evolutions and all that jazz. But the truth is your Chao aren't going to look like this. They're going to look like this. You see, when you give an animal to a Chao, not only does it increase their stats, but the Chao also receives a physical attribute from the animal. Each animal will have a number of different possible attributes it could give. For example, if you give a Chao a penguin, there's a chance it will replace the Chao's feet or arms. Or if you give the Chao big-ass penguin eyebrows, the body part you get will be randomized. It can be a bit of a pain in the ass if you're trying to give your Chao a certain specific combination of animal parts. It should be mentioned that the pool of animals is slightly different between Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. There's some overlap, but each game has a few creatures unique to it. Sonic Adventure 2 more so, as it has a greater total number of animals. As you may have noticed, the portraits have a colored background. As I'm sure you can guess, yellow, purple, green, and red backgrounds all correspond to their stat type, as evident from the kinds of animals themselves. Birds for flying, strong animals for power, etc. There are several key differences between Chaos Drives and animals. The first of which is that animals can and usually do affect all 4 bars instead of just one. Another major difference is they can actually decrease a progress bar. An animal can never lower stats or remove levels. All it can do is slightly decrease one of your progress bars, and there's no effect if the bar is already at 0. Animals are typically much more efficient and faster way to level compared to Chaos Drives, as long as you're using them intelligently. Like look at the otter for instance. He increases swim 44% compared to the 24% of Yellow Chaos Drive, and on top of that he even increases run 8% too. The downside is he decreases fly by 4% and power by 16%. So it increases progress bars by 52% total, but it also comes with a decrease of 20% for a net total gain of 32%. Again, that already alone makes it better than Chaos Drives, but if you can get a shitload of otters, then once your power and fly progress bars hit 0, they can't go any lower, so every otter you're getting the full 52% stat bonus without any downsides. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bunch of the exact same animal either. Just pay attention to which bars are getting downgraded and make sure the animals you're giving your Chao have stat boost synergy. Some animals only decrease 1 progress bar instead of 2, and some don't decrease any at all. These are the most valuable animals, and they're the ones without a stat-colored background. In Sonic Adventure 1 there was just the blue background animals known as the random type. They increase every stat group and don't decrease any. Sonic Adventure 2 also has these animals, but it introduced 2 additional types of rare animals, Mythical and Ghost. These are even better than the random type on average, but they're harder to obtain. Because animals are just so much better than using the Chaos Drives for raising stats, you basically have no choice but to use them. And like I said, actively curating your Chao's appearance can be an annoying degree of micromanagement when you're just trying to get your stats up. So most of the time your Chao is just going to have to look like this, or this, or just some other ungodly combination of animal parts. You're basically always going to be maintaining a balancing act between leveling up your Chao and making them not look like shit. The only time you can really totally stop worrying about this is once you've reached max level and can no longer improve its stats. Then you can focus entirely on the appearance. But by that time they're probably near the end of their lifespan and ready to reincarnate and start the process all over again. God, you're an ugly little bastard. Here, put this on. Yeah, that's much better. So yeah, it turns out the true utility of Chaos Drives is that they don't turn your Chao into a freaky little monster. In Sonic Adventure 1, nearly every enemy in the game contains an animal. Each stage has a pool of 5 different animals you can find inside enemies, which change depending on the level. In Sonic Adventure 2, Chaos Drives are more common to find in enemies than animals. However, each stage will have hidden animals scattered throughout it. There are 10 in treasure hunting stages, 15 in mech stages, and 20 in running stages, and collecting them all will even grant you an extra life. In addition to these hidden animals, you can also find bonus animals in the second and third Chao key containers once you've obtained the key from the first one. The second one will contain an assortment of that stage's animals, and the third one will contain a mythical or ghost animal. Chao don't just inherit body parts from animals, they also gain abilities. For each animal, there's an associated action with it